So we've talked about verbs, right? Different kinds of verbs: action verbs, linking verbs, helping verbs, verbs that show physical action, verbs that show mental action. Today, we're going to talk about the participle and a new role that those verbs can play, and that is the role of an adjective, right? So it's going to become an adjective because it's describing a noun. Let's take a look at this first sentence. A chipped glass can be dangerous. Chipped. This is our participle. And I know it's a participle because it's giving me additional information about the noun, glass. Right, it's describing glass. It's giving me a way to visualize that glass. It's a glass, has a chip out of it. Okay? In a different sentence, that word chipped, you can use that exact same word as a verb. We chipped the ice. Okay? So here, chipped is working as a verb, right? It's giving action to that we. It's physical action. We chipped the ice. It's not describing anything there. Where here, a chipped glass is clearly describing that glass. It's modifying glass. So you have to think about the role that word plays in a sentence. I know we've said that many times before, but I can't emphasize that enough. If you're going to make sense of the parts of speech with the sentence, you have to think about what role that word is playing. And identifying the participle is important because we'll see in a minute, they start participial phrases. And again, one of our interests in learning about parts of speech is to identify these sentence segments that we associate rules of punctuation with. Right? We're going to find that with the participle. Our second sentence, swimming alligators are the ones to watch out for. Do you see the participle, the verb, working as an adjective? Take a minute. Identify the one that you think, the word that you believe to be the participle. If you identified swimming as the participle, then you did a good job. It's working as an adjective that describes alligators. We have present participles and we have past participles. And we have present and past participles because they're coming from that verb form. Remember, we have a present tense with our verbs, and we have a past tense with our verbs. And we see that in the kinds of participles that we have. Present participles end in ing. So the swimming alligators are the ones to watch out for. Swimming is a present participle because it ends in ing. It's that easy. All right? The smiling student wrote her essay. Ing. It's our present participle being used as an adjective to describe student. Right? It helps to build the image of the student by modifying it, by describing that student. In our next sentence, the standing audience cheered wildly. Ing, describing audience. So again, I have a present participle working as an adjective to describe audience. Okay? That's what participles do. They're adjectives. They describe nouns and pronouns. They can also begin phrases, right? Let's go back to past participles first. So we talked about present participles, past participles, and the past tense form of that verb. So past participles end in D or ED, or if the verb has an irregular ending, it's going to take that irregular ending, such as in chosen. Okay? So, in our two examples, we're just like the other examples, only the verbs are in the past tense. Okay? So we have ED, this is our participle, working as an adjective. Right? So when we think about that word in the sentence, you're thinking about it not as a verb, but more as an adjective. Okay? Because that's what its role in the sentence is. It's to describe. Right? It's describing pizza. In the next sentence, right, we have that verb, the irregular ending, right, chosen, right, still a verb, past tense, being used as an adjective, describing contestants. Okay? So when you see these verb forms, think about them. You can classify them as participles, but importantly, you should be thinking about them as adjectives. Now, we get to the participial phrase. All right? So a participial phrase, right? Remember, phrases are groups of words. So these are the groups of words that you associate with those participles that we were just talking about. Right? So a participial phrase consists of a participle and any modifiers or complements the participle has. The entire phrase is used as an adjective. So think about the whole phrase as an adjective. So in the previous examples, we were thinking about the participle itself. There's just the one word. There was no phrase, right, being used as an adjective. The same thing is happening here. Only the whole phrase is working as an adjective. Okay? So identifying first that participle will help you to see the beginning of that participial phrase. Right? That whole segment of your sentence. Scheduled. Right? Let's read the sentence and think about scheduled as beginning our participial phrase. So when I read the sentence, think about where that phrase ends. Okay, think about where it ends. Listen for it. The play scheduled for tomorrow in the high school auditorium will go on as planned. Did you hear where it ends? The play, scheduled. So we know scheduled, right? This is being used as an adjective. Right? We could switch the sentence around a little bit. The scheduled play, right? Same word. I've moved it around. Describing play being used as an adjective. But we wanted to include additional information into that sentence, right, to clarify what's going on. Okay, so we built this phrase. The play scheduled for tomorrow in the high school auditorium. That is where our phrase ends. And hopefully you saw that when you were thinking about the sentence and listening for the end of that phrase. Right? Scheduled for tomorrow in the high school auditorium. Right? Now, what's interesting is we can move that phrase around. Okay? Let's do that, just for fun. Let's take out the play. Let's use a different color here. The play put that right there. Okay? So knowing these phrases will help you to recognize the different choices you have in writing a sentence. Right? There's often a number of ways to construct that sentence. And it'll also help you to think about where you need punctuation and where you don't. So in the first example, was scheduled for tomorrow in the high school auditorium, there's no punctuation needed. The phrase was in the sentence itself, internally. Right? The play scheduled for tomorrow in the high school auditorium will go on as planned. No commas needed. But here, a comma will be needed. It's going to be needed right here. Right? So remember when we were talking about prepositional phrases, right? When that prepositional phrase starts the sentence, you put a comma after it. You find the end of that prepositional phrase, put the comma, and then the main clause of the sentence is going to go on. The same is true with your participial phrases, right? When that participial phrase starts the sentence, you find the end of it, put the comma, and then your sentence will go on with the main clause. Okay? But make sure, right, you're thinking about that participial phrase as an adjective, right? So what follows that comma needs to be the noun or the pronoun being described by that phrase, right? That's why the play has to go where I've placed it. Right? So our new sentence, scheduled for tomorrow in the high school auditorium, the play will go on as planned. Our next sentence, having been returned home, comma. Right? That's the end of my participial phrase. Right? Having been returned home. Right? Returned home. Those are the words that we're associating with having been. Right? The helping verbs forming the tense. Put a comma at the end of it. The puppy was very happy. Period. We could move that phrase into the middle of our sentence. The puppy, having been returned home, was very happy. Right? So seeing where that phrase is allows me to think about the different choices that I have with writing this sentence, but also helps me to think about where punctuation is necessary and where it's not.